Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today.
That noise you've been waiting to hear since the first day you wanted to be a firefighter, there really is something about the sound of a fire station alarm when you're mobilised that feels almost sacred in our profession. The bells, the lights, the sudden jolt awake in the middle of the night that everyone's been thinking about since the day they wanted to be a firefighter. You're waiting for that call. And for generations, that's been part of the culture of the fire service. We almost romanticise it. That moment when the tones the bells drop and suddenly it's go time. But really, when you zoom out and look at it through the lens of sleep science, neuroscience, and actual long-term firefighter health, you have to confront a really interesting question. What if we've been thinking about alerting completely in the wrong way? Because historically, we've not been alerting firefighters. We've been alerting fire stations. Big bells, loudspeakers, bright lights, wake the whole building up and hope the right people respond. Now, that approach made sense, of course, when every call mobilised the entire station, every single appliance, every single vehicle on there. But modern fire services don't operate like that anymore. Many stations run multiple appliances with different crews, different skill sets, and different response profiles. And yet, the alerting method for the vast majority, certainly in the UK, has barely changed. The one small call at 3 in the morning might violently wake 10, 12, 16 firefighters, even though only 4 of them are actually being responded. That is a strange design decision when you stop and think about it. And it raises a deeper question. What does that constant startle response actually do to the human body over the course of a career when it's actually not needed? Because the science of sleep and stress tells us something really important, and it's been done so many times. We are just slowly waking up to it, if you excuse the pun. When a sudden alarm goes off, the brain triggers a startle reflex, adrenaline surges, cortisol spikes, heart rate jumps dramatically in seconds. That reaction evolved to deal with predators, not printer alarms and automatic fire alarms in some student accommodation or something. And my guest today, Blake Richardson, has come up with an alternative. He's the CEO of EaseAlert, and Blake grew up around fire service because his dad was in it, who served for more than 2 decades as a firefighter, and his work is focused on what may be the next frontier in firefighting health and safety: how we wake firefighters up. Instead of alerting the entire building, systems like EaseAlert focus on alerting the responder. Wearable, tactile alerts, bed vibration systems, and carefully designed lighting that are used to wake the firefighter themselves up without triggering the extreme startle response that traditional alarms create. Clinical research into this approach is already showing fascinating results. One pilot study, as an example, which was funded through the National Institute of Health, found 38.3% reduction in heart rate spike during the first 30 seconds after an alert when firefighters were woken using tactile alert instead of the traditional audible alarms. That is not a small difference. That is a major physiological shift. And it matters because cardiovascular events remain the leading cause of line-of-duty deaths in firefighters worldwide. And at the same time, growing research links sleep disruption to cancer risk, mental health challenges, and long-term metabolic health. So this conversation should have happened ages ago, and we are just catching up on stuff like this. I've seen these systems in different parts around the world, and it's not really about technology. It's about something much bigger. It's about the idea that maybe the next evolution in firefighting health is not another piece of PPE or another operational tactic. Maybe the next frontier is simply this. Instead of responding to the station, we start responding to people. This was a really fascinating conversation for me about sleep science, tradition, culture, and how small design changes in the way we mobilise crews might have a massive, and I mean massive, impact on the long-term health of firefighters across the world. I'll see you on the other side. When I was prepping for our conversation today, I was thinking about when I first joined the stations, and I used to remember that the firefighter that was there before me told me how he used to have a bell installed in his house. And when you join the fire service, and he was actually on a previous guest, where it was like they would come out to your house and they would install a bell on the wall. Because he lived at home at the time, his dad used to stick a sock in it, because obviously he'd get really pissed off because it would go off all the time. Because back then you were on call all the time. And then obviously we move into the new generation for people all around the world. We're talking volleys, we're talking on-call, we're talking retained, whatever your words are all around the world. And I thought to myself, how much was that a disruption to everyone in that home in terms of, sleep science, general health, the culture of the fire service, the neuroscience, the stuff that affects that person's day-to-day life. And I feel like as much as things have changed, they've also stayed the same. It's so weird. It's like the technology's changed, but the approach has remained the same. Because I remember when I joined, I would have a little alerter that I would hold when I joined the on-call, or retained as it was then, and I would take it home, and Jesus Christ, was it loud. And it would set off my whole family. And if that didn't set them off, me obviously bundling across the landing and all that sort of stuff. When did you first start thinking about, right, we need to cycle back to even the method that we're going about this? Because it's almost like we're trying to solve at the end. We don't realize that we've already made a decision about how we're doing this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we think about the job in the fire service, and that's where the adrenaline comes from. That's where everything gets done. But getting to the job is oftentimes pretty detrimental to firefighter health. And so that's where EaseAlert really focuses. And the way it came about is I grew up around my dad, who's a firefighter, and I'd see him every third day come home from a shift. So they're 24 hours on, 48 hours off for the past 23 years. And when I was in high school, he actually came back from a shift pretty worn down as usual. It's 24 hours. You might have 3 or 4 calls after midnight. And I thought, I wonder if there's a way to make his job a little less challenging, a little less taxing. It's always going to be stressful. It's always going to be dangerous. You're always going to have to put yourself at risk. But is there anything that we can do to make it a little bit less taxing? And that's when I thought about hearing the tones, be there at Thanksgiving, hearing those tones going off. And it doesn't have to be that way. So that's where the initial idea came from.
So let's try and unpick this from a real base level understanding of it. So ultimately, firefighters are on stations. We sleep on fire stations. We need to wake you up. Okay, get that. But the method in which we do it and the damage that we do or don't do whilst doing it has never really been thought about, because it's like, well, we just need to guarantee that you're getting up. So traditionally, it would be really large clacks and steel bells that would just hit you with a massive spike of cortisol, adrenaline, and everything like that, which there's an argument to go, if you're being really romantic about it, we're like, it's fucking go time. We're getting ready for it. Bang, heart rate goes. And we kind of romanticize that feeling because we're like, Jesus Christ, the adrenaline's going. I'm sprinting off down the stairs. Yes, okay. For the 1 in 30 calls that is actually a thing. If we're just going out to, co-responder call, as we would call it in the UK, or a health call, whatever, people's going out in the ambulance, or even if you're on a truck on a station, with multiple trucks, it's like, okay, so Papa 1 is going to just an AFA at a high-rise building, which is a student that's just had a bit of toast go off because they've got back at 3 a.m, smashed out their head, and they've just set that off. Okay, we've disrupted 16 firefighters in quite a violent way. And often when people come back from that, everyone's very different. Like, I tell myself that I can deal with it easily because I feel like I can get back to sleep. We're going to an argument about how good sleep is or is not that I'm having. But some people, they're like, man, I need to watch an hour of TV and just like have a cup of tea or a coffee and just chill for a minute because my heart rate is absolutely bouncing. But we don't see, well, I always say the future's here, but it's not evenly distributed, because I was about to say we haven't seemed to change that. That's only because the bias that I come from in the organization that I work for, it still tends to be very much the same. But then it's only when you go to different places. I've been to a few places in the States, I think a few places that have actually got your system. And I was like, that is so weird. And it works though. So I've said a little waffle there, but come in at any point you wish about like, why did we not think about it for like a neurodiversity perspective? Is it because the people that were designing it had always had it that way? So maybe they never had the, not mental capacity, that sounds like condescending, but like they're just stuck in their unconscious bias. Do you know what I mean? It's always got to be loud.
and that's the thing. I think one really important point to start with there is that you have to be able to do the job. And there has to be zero chance of missing the call, because that's what fire service is here for. Answer any call, anytime, every time, immediately. And that's kind of the reason why it's so loud, because the method has been audible. audible and visual. You have big loud sounds, big bright lights, and that's how you make sure nobody wakes up. Why tactile hasn't been looked at? It's not the way it's traditionally been done. And so that's the fire service is built on tradition. Here in the States, we say it's 200 years of tradition unimpeded by progress. And
I love that, man. We've been stealing that over here.
Same for you guys, and across the globe,
brother. Well, we'll say we started it, in Braidwood's days, back in Scotland, in Edinburgh. We're like, we started this sort of stuff. Obviously, there was fire rescue services all over the world. We'll go into the background of it, but MSA are supporting us on today's podcast, and I chose to partner with them because I've been wearing this stuff for nearly 20 years, and they are the global leader in development, manufacture, and supply of incredible, safe products that really protect people, not just our communities out there, but also first responders, most importantly, all over the world. Get yourself over to MSA and have a look at it. The high-performance protective clothing for emergency services responders. They also partner with us on the UK Pink Firefighters. That's because we love them. The helmets with the reflective visor, the F1XF, absolutely epic helmet. And not forgetting how they improve firefighter safety through their connectivity in the connected firefighter platform. MSA are always pushing the envelope, and it's a real privilege to be able to continue to grow our partnership together. So whether it's your PPE, your bunker gear, your helmets, your SCBA, your thermal imaging, your Luna, or your portable gas detection, both of us know that this equipment needs to work. It needs to be high quality, reliable, and dependable in the moment. And that's why I use MSA, because they know what's at stake. Where I first saw it in the UK, because obviously we don't have your system heavily adopted. We don't have EaseAlert yet, I don't think. I mean, I'll ask you in a little bit if you meant to make any penetration in the UK. But where I did see this was maybe like, I'm going to say 5-10 years ago, and it wasn't this obviously, but deaf people. So like when we go and doing community safety visits at homes, and I'm wondering, what did they do 40 years ago when they're like, my dad, Blake, is deaf, and we're like, okay, make sure he doesn't sleep alone. Someone give him a kick. Do you know what I mean? Because you can make that as loud as you like. He's deaf.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It's not saying it louder and more intentionally. He's deaf. Do you know what I mean? So that's when I first started seeing the lights and the vibrations under the pillow, because you can get special deaf alarms. I apologize if I'm getting the terminology wrong for political correctness, but like the deaf. Do you know what I mean? Did you see that technology at all? Was that, because I've got a feeling, how long has this been in development for you? How long have you been going now?
We've been doing this for 6 years, going on 7.
7 years.
And so
I wonder if that's a similar timeline.
It's possible. From our side, we started with the wearable, so this wristband that would vibrate on your wrist. And
Nice.
Then we heard from firefighters, hey, we'd love to have something on the bed, because maybe I already have a watch, or I don't want to wear something on my wrist when I go to bed. And so then
Being a princess.
Yeah.
Can I have something else Gucci as well?
Yeah, exactly.
No shit.
Exactly. We get it
But no, that's a
migraine
fair
and
shout.
everything.
Yeah. So talk to me about the wearables, because wearable technology now, because that's like, I'm surprised that came first. Well, I'm not surprised because there was Fitbits and stuff like that. But what I mean is, that's actually the next level is wearable, because I'm guessing, well, I know from the stuff you shared with me, we can track loads of stuff with that. Whereas if we'd have started with lights and vibrating pillows, it would be harder for you, other than felt sense experience, to say, anatomically, that this is making a positive change to the chemicals being secreted by the firefighter, the resting heart rate, blah, 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 blah. You would just say, it's a little bit less of a dick way to wake them up, and they like it more. But the wearable thing is probably the biggest game changer with it.
Well, so on our wearable, we don't track your personal biometrics. We just give you the alert.
Okay.
And that's because firefighters they don't want to have Big Brother watching over them. And that's something that down the road we may incorporate.
I think that's just the States.
Oh, really?
Oh, over here, we love it.
Interesting. Yeah.
All day, measure it.
Okay.
Definitely. Anyway.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So
just
what does it do?
So it'll just vibrate, give you a red LED, and it's a different vibration pattern than any other smartwatch that you would have. So it's a call. It's a high-low pattern, so it's not going to scare the hell out of you. And then you can wear it either existing wristband, or you can wear it on a dog tag pendant like this, or you can just attach this to your watch. And that way you have a department-issued device that's going to be basically like a tiny pager on your wrist. So anywhere you go, you get that alert. And it'll give you that key, hey, I got to go, got to get ready, whether I'm napping, showering, working out. hearing protection on, those types of instances, that's when the tac pod really comes in handy.
Well, I suppose the best thing for them as well is you can just have a bank of them on station, which are constantly on charge. You come on, you wipe it off, decon it, whatever.
Yep.
And then you bang yours on for the shift. And are they like, I suppose if you're on the truck, it doesn't matter because the truck will get mobilized. But like, are they geotagged to the station? Do they work within? What's the notification process for them? Can they be integrated into current systems, or so as in like the station I work at, it's got mobilization to the mobile data terminal that's on the truck, and then it's got a printer. I don't know what system that I know when I first started, it was a Ramsdac system, which I think they fall back to with alerters if they need to, but I don't know what system they're using now. But I know they're all just, they all run on mobile networks now. So I imagine they can integrate in most things.
Yeah. So we can tie into any alerting system. We set up a transmitter of our own, and then we just intercept your existing signals so your dispatchers don't have to send anything extra. And from there, we can activate all the EaseAlert devices just wirelessly throughout the firehouse.
Nice. So they've got the red LED, they've got the vibration either pendant or on the wrist. Talk to me about when firefighters are in bed at night. What's the developments that you've moved into from that? Because those were arguably the most disrupting ones. And now you say you've come up with elements for that as well.
Yeah, so that's called the bunk alert. So the bunk alert itself is actually a vibration motor that attaches to the bed frame. It's a high intensity vibration motor, so you can make sure even the heaviest sleepers, the guys and gals who maybe have a CPAP or maybe hearing impaired themselves, a lot of firefighters are, they can wake up.
I can't believe you'd be allowed on station with a CPAP.
Oh yeah. Tons of firefighters in the United States have CPAPs. None in the UK.
Mate, well, I don't think they would let you. When I was in Australia recently, I'm not going to mention the organization, but I was astonished that they don't have annual fitness tests. And I think this is the case in a number of, because people generally, and I'm sure they do it the same in the UK, they go, American firefighters. And I'm like, no, be specific. Because I've been to about 15 or 16 different states with different departments, with different ways of working, with different equipment, with different stations. Yeah. So don't just say American firefighters do this, because you're just plastering everyone with a bad example you've seen in an isolated clip on social media. So don't do that shit, because they'll do that to us, and that's not fair. You do see it. But anyway, I was getting back to, in Australia, this particular organization, one of the 3 or 4 that we saw out there, they don't do annual fitness tests. So I was like, whoa, that's crazy, because it's such an ingrained thing in the UK. But I imagine in the organizations you've visited, just getting back to the people that wear CPAP are usually probably overweight, not definitely, but probably overweight. They've got a health issue of some capacity, which means they struggle with a disrupted sleep. They never enter an REM. They're always constantly waking themselves up or whatever. But it surprises me that someone would be not allowed, because I get you couldn't discriminate for someone because of a health condition, but also, I don't know. I can't understand how they would accept that. I don't know. I just feel like that person's got some serious issues, which they maybe need to get addressed with a medical professional before they're allowed on because I bet they're never getting good sleep. But anyway, so if they're using a CPAP, you can still use a system like this, because they can be quite loud in themselves, some CPAP machines.
Oh yeah. Yeah, those can be loud. And in general, you may have individuals who are they've had a long shift, or they're deep sleepers, or when they fall asleep, they cannot hear anything. They can sleep through a freight train. And so that's where the tactile alert becomes really handy. If you think about you're sleeping and someone may yell your name, you may be able to sleep through that if you're really tired. But if someone comes and taps you on the shoulder, you're not sleeping through that.
Yeah. My first house had a train line behind it. And it's amazing how quickly living there, you become conditioned to it. And it doesn't wake you up anymore. But it's the same way that, like, things that you condition to, like the train, won't wake you up, but you hear your daughter, I've got a child, and like if she's sleeping in the next room, I'll hear her. So I always wonder, like, what part of our subconscious is still responding? Because clearly some part of us is. Do you know what I mean? We pick up on things. But yeah, like a vibration, an intense vibration, is not something you would ever really become conditioned to, because it's not something that normally ever happens. The bed doesn't vibrate. So like that would be a great integration. It's probably why, again, they use it with deaf people, because your body you will always respond to it. It won't become conditioned to that, because it's such a strange thing to happen to you.
Exactly. And it's your body physiologically responds more sensitively to that touch because that's your body saying, hey, there's something here. Something
The danger
physically
is really
behind me.
close to me.
Yeah, I got to go. I got to wake up and be able to respond.
Yeah.
But we do
It's
it in
like
a way
if you
that's not
blow
gonna-
on your missus' eyelashes when she's asleep just to annoy her. If someone were so inclined as to do something cruel like that, then yeah, wakes them up. And then I love that. You just do. There's no point making a big noise if you just do something tiny and annoying.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
You wake up to that. Exactly. But it's taking that science and bringing it to the fire service because you got to make sure that they're going to go like we talked about. It's got to be an alert that's going to be effective every single time, but it doesn't need to scare the hell out of you. And that's where that vibration is going to be a soft way to wake up, but in a fast manner. You're not slowing down the response. In fact, you're awake. You're more cognitively prepared. You can listen to the information. You're not going from 0 to 100 in a matter of 5 seconds. You're going from 0 to 30 to 40, hearing information, getting in the rig. Then you get to 100 as you get on scene. That's where the adrenaline needs to come from.
Red lights. Is there a reason behind using red?
Yeah, it's the same reason too that you'll see it in submarines or in nighttime areas.
I was thinking.
Yeah, so individuals who need to be on high alert or cognitively very capable in those nighttime settings, they use red light for a few reasons. The main one we use is it dilates your pupils less. So when you wake up to red light, you're not as disoriented. Think about when you wake up to a bright white light, you can barely see. You can barely think. Your mind is so overwhelmed with what's going on around you, let alone what information the dispatcher is sending through the crackled speakers in the overhead. That is because you're just disoriented. You have too much stimulus. Whereas with the red light, it's going to dilate your pupils less. So you wake up, your body kind of eases into it. You can understand what's going on and you can gather that information cognitively, both where you're going, what you're going to, and how you need to get there.
I wanted to jump a little bit deeper, so I just had a quick look because I remember someone telling me, because we had an episode talking about submarine firefighting, and I was like, the red light thing, and it's exactly what you say. So I was looking at it. So the human vision runs through 2 sensory systems. So there's first are cones, and they handle color and vision. They're bright lights. Second are rods. They work best in nightlight workers. Rod cells are extremely sensitive to low light and allow you to see in darkness. That was the big one. Submarines, if they get a blackout, all of a sudden they're more adapted to the darkness because they're already working in that sort of range, if you know what I mean. And then I used to have a red light in my bedroom. There's 2 reasons. Oh, the second isn't a reason, but the second is a reason I got rid of it because I started to be a bit of a biohacking person, and it's like, I don't want all this intense light, so I bought loads of Gucci light for around my house, loads of soft light, and then when you go into the bedroom, it was just red lights that you could switch things to in the night because it was a nice sort of cognitive, no phone for an hour and a half before I go to bed, all that sort of jazz. And but then when my new partner that I'm with, have been together over a year, but when she came and she obviously saw the red light, she was like, what's going on up in here? She was like, is this a sex show? What's going on? And she wasn't keen on the idea, and my my justification of biohacking just made me sound like a different kind of weirdo. So I was either going to be a sexual weirdo or a weirdo that's way too intense and like anal about his sleep. So we got rid of it because I could appreciate the neighbors looking at the red light and maybe assuming something different, but
yeah.
Technology, from a technological and biological perspective, it is just the best way to wake people up. And you also imagine, like, we're jumping straight out of bed, bang, big, bright white lights, your ability to adapt to that quickly, the effect it's having on your body, you're more likely to fall over and stumble around if you're responding to bright white light because it's so disorientating for your body. Whereas if you're woken up with red lights throughout the building, you'd ironically be safer.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
You would be.
It's a crazy way for people to think about it.
He woke up and he banged his tooth on the door and chipped his tooth off on the way to a call. And it might have just been a lift assist, but he lost a tooth because of that. You are disoriented when you wake up and you're running, you're getting your gear on, getting out the door.
Yeah. You're running down a corridor, immediately about to be confronted with a 15-foot drop that you're still rubbing your eyes trying to navigate. Or for those stations that have got rid of them, you're about to head down the stairs or something like that. I just think, like you say, we could just be so much more intelligent about this. So talk to me about sound. What have we done with the sound?
So the traditional alerting sound, like we talked about, was very loud, very quick, making sure you got the alert as soon as possible and it got you going, got your heart rate up. For ramp up audio, that's kind of what we see as the gold standard. And this has been in the fire service now for some time when it comes to audible alerts. So it'll kind of step up from quiet to loud over time. The thing you have to be cognizant of is you don't want to take too much time, because you only have so much time to tone out before you need to start receiving information at the call. So you have maybe 3 to 4 seconds for that ramp up tone, sometimes less depending on the audio comms and your existing radio frequency communications from the dispatch center. So it's a limited window, but you want to go from quiet to loud if you can, and then hear the dispatch audio. What we kind of see as the gold standard is having
firefighters, police officers, and first responders are now stepping into environments wired with more high voltage than ever before. Everything from electric vehicles to solar panels feeding direct current through compromised structures, overhead power lines, and illicit drugs factories with improvised lethal bypasses. Any single strike in the wrong place in this type of environment can turn things fatal very quickly, and that is exactly why we've partnered with Jafco. You already know who Jafco are. They have been relied upon for decades for sturdy, get-the-job-done equipment, and they are not resting on their laurels. They are evolving to face the challenges first responders are handling today through their insulated tool range. These are purpose-built for the scenarios where contact with hidden electrical hazards isn't just possible, it is increasingly likely. Their insulated tools are engineered for real-world abuse and use, designed to keep firefighters, police officers, and all first responders alive in environments where electrification is outpacing policy, equipment, and training. And you know this. This is the kind of innovation our sector needs and the kind of investment organizations should be stepping up to support if we are serious about protecting first responders from fatal consequences. So a massive thank you to Jafco for backing the podcast and backing the crews on the ground. Go check them out, learn what they're doing, and bring that conversation into your service, because this isn't about the future, it's about right now.
Tactile and visual first. So you vibrate on the bed, on the wrist, and then you have red light that comes on, ramps up from dim to bright, and then you have audio. As soon as you've received that alert, you start responding, then the audio comes in. That way your body's ready to react, and then you're not kind of startled by the first thing being noise. So that's where kind of the noise kind of comes in as a secondary. Automated voice dispatch as well is another big audible component where you're creating computer generalized voice from the call.
I'm going to go out on a limb, and again, just an insight for you. I'm going to say for all public sector fire and rescue services and brigades in the UK, we don't get an audible alert, as in a read of what the call is. A lot of us are just going to the printer, and then we will have to read it ourselves, which again, when you're half asleep, is a challenge in itself. I would much prefer us having, I appreciate our fire control couldn't come over necessarily straight away. The call handler couldn't come over. That's a lot for them to maybe try and do. They're very busy. But like you say, technology, you could just have an electronic voice auto read it. You know what I mean? Just read straight off the call sheet as has been inputted by the call handler to just tell you what it is. Because that's always the first thing that gets asked. It's ironic. There'll be 4 people on the truck. I bet it's asked 7 times. You know what I mean? What have we got? What's the call? What's the shout? And you'll say it, and then there'll be an update message, or the other person didn't hear it, and then so you end up saying it 4 or 5 times anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love for us to have an audio readout. So the heart rate element of it, we all know we get a spike, but you guys have pulled some data together in some comparative sort of studies that you've ran in terms of how we can reduce that down to minimum effective dose, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the goal is not to remove the adrenaline dump. You need the adrenaline dump. You need that to do your job, right? It's a high pressure situation, especially when you're on scene for a working structure fire. But the goal is to not have that spike come from the tones. And so,
also the poison's in the dose. You know what I mean?
Right.
You want a bit of adrenaline. You don't want full adrenaline. I think the level of adrenaline that we're getting can actually start to. It probably, if we did a psychological study on like prime recognition, decision making, or sense making, it probably narrows your field of interpretation as to what this call may or may not be. Do you know what I mean? Ed Hartin does some command concept work over in the States, incredible incident commander and also fire behavior instructor. But he talks about how our focus gets narrowed so much in the before we've even arrived on the scene, before we've even turned out from the station. We've already unconsciously decided what this is. And I wonder if that's because we are so jacked up on like, I need to know what it is, I need to know what I've decided this is what we're doing, number 1, you're 2 in that. I want truck number 7 to come in from the north side. This is, and it's like, we're not even there yet. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's an element of preparedness which can become unhelpful if you're overly stimulated. It's that whole stimulation curve, isn't it? The optimum point you're looking for.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's a great point too on the poison and the dose. And from our side, what we try to do is make sure that heart rate spike is more gradual. So instead of going from, let's say, a resting heartbeat of maybe you're sleeping 40 to 50 beats per minute, getting that up to 140, 150 in a matter of 30 seconds. What we're aiming for is getting that up to maybe 80 or 90 in 30 seconds. And then you continue to creep up over time as you're gathering that information from the call. Maybe you realize, okay, it's our frequent flyer. We've seen this person 3 times today. Not a big deal. I know what I'm going to. Your heart rate doesn't need to get up. You can level out at 120, 110, get in the truck, respond. So that's where the difference in the heart rate spike can be when you start with the tactile and the visual. And that's what we have measured, like you mentioned. So we actually got an NIH-funded study. So the National Institutes of Health here in the States funded a clinical study that looked at the impact of tactile alerts compared to traditional audible alerting systems and found some pretty drastic differences between the heart rate spike as well as the overall health impact.
Massive. So you've got, I'm just looking at it now. So a 38.3% reduction in heart rate spike between 0 and 30 seconds. 38%.
Yep.
That is enormous. That's not like a deviation from the standard. That is a significant data shift. 30% in anything is massive. Pretty much.
It's important, man. And it's something that you heard a lot of anecdotal feedback on when we started. Everybody said, okay, yes, it's easier to wake up to. Definitely would prefer this. It's great. But now to have the data to support it is really important. And so that's just our first pilot clinical study. And we're looking to conduct a more full clinical trial here. So we're in the process of following up with that grant process now. Excited to get more data on that. But we're always, as we're going out in the field, we're making sure that 1, we're addressing a real problem, and 2, we're providing a real solution. So when we first started EaseAlert, I was reading all the scientific peer-reviewed journals on what is the impact of alerting. How is firefighter health and safety changed over the years? What are we seeing today, tomorrow? What are we expecting? And I reached out to all those researchers, and actually most of them said, this is really interesting. I would love to support you in this study, which I was surprised by to even get a reply. And that's how we ended up getting this research team, is several of them, some of the top researchers across the fire service in the US said, yeah, let's do it. Let's go get a grant. And we're here to study it. Bring the technology. We'll bring the measurements and the whole know-how and get this done.
That must have been a heavy lift in itself, because we've started working a lot more with academics in the UK, but nowhere near to the level that we should. It's a bit like because we're so romantic and steeped in tradition. You can see on the wall behind you is a physical representation of how romantic we are about tradition, and some of that's good. And I'm Jesus Christ,
you gotta respect
the same sort of crap behind me, but it's like we're almost too impatient to be intelligent. It's like there's a load of academics sat on the sidelines looking at us going, please stop. Just ask. Please ask. I think of it like an engineer sat on the side of a field 100 years ago, seeing 400 people digging with, little spades and stuff like that. And they're like, this could be so much easier. So much easier. And I get we don't want to make everybody unemployed in the example that we had maybe with the agricultural revolution across the world. But the chronic back pain, the conditions of work that people had to do back then, technology was a godsend to a lot of them in reality. And they just had to reskill. They just had to retrain. But that's not even going to be an effect for us, because it's not like this technology is not going to put anybody out of the job. And when you spoke then about what are some of the biggest health concerns in the fire and rescue service, I'm probably going to fail here, but you'll correct me, but cardiac issues. Cardiac arrest. I feel like that's number 1. Is that firefighters dying of heart attacks and having, irregular heart rates or struggling with, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not tachycardia. That's when you're getting into the thing above. High blood pressure. What's it called? Stage hypertension. I think a lot of people are in stage 1 hypertension because of stress or the health concerns, and also the occupational hazards that we interact with all of the time. We've recognized contaminants as a major occupational hazard. And I think the World Health Organization's now recognized, well, it did a couple of years ago, recognized firefighting as a carcinogenic profession. But I still feel like we're scratching the surface on this. We're not looking at what this is doing to our health all of the time. And I know people will give us the excuse of, well, paramedics are up all night. They don't have a problem with the alerting system. Police officers are up all. That's part of their job. Like, a police officer is not going to lie in a bed, because they do go to a lot more calls. And arguably most of the calls they themselves will say are like rubbish calls. They're just, small civil disturbance or something like that. It's a job they don't really need to be going to. They're not necessarily going to the something has most likely gone very, very bad very, very quickly. That's usually what we're calling the fire service for. It's a recognized emergency that needs somebody to go from 0 to 100. My brother-in-law is a paramedic over here in the UK. And a lot of the calls he'll go to is, someone's got blood in their poo or something like that. It's not an emergency in the same respect. Someone's fallen over in the high street and they just need taken back. They're not bleeding out. They're not, they're not catastrophic bleed or anything like that. They just need taken to the hospital. They're important things to do. Arguably significantly less time critical. For us, it's still striking that balance between we need to be well rested, we need to be prepared, because we're going to need to go from 0 to 100 in a relatively short period of time. And I feel like we never need to be getting rid of the beds. And of course, romantically as a firefighter, I would say that it's about making us more well rested, efficient to respond in a way that doesn't cause a long-term chronic health issue. Because as we're making firefighters work till they're 60, 65, 70 now, that will be not far ahead, I'm sure. We'll be asking people to work until that point, and we go, is this sustainable? And what's going to be left of this human being when we're finished with them? Not a lot, I don't think. Who are we going to be giving back to the families? This broken person, like your dad was at times when he was coming home. Just we've smashed his hormones to death. Do you know what I mean? All the toxins he's taken on board, the environment he's had to work in. And if we didn't know, we didn't know. But now we know better, we should be doing better. And I feel like the studies that you've done and you've participated in and embracing technologies, which is exactly what EaseAlert is all about, is going to be the next big factor. I mean, there's something you said just before we came on about this being, the real frontier of the next sort of evolution that we need to go through.
Yeah, without a doubt. So, I mean, when you talk about the dangers and risks of the fire service, of course, cardiac risks, the number one cause of on-duty death for firefighters has been heart attacks for the longest time, and still is. But they also have looked at carcinogenic risks. So cancer kills more firefighters than all line-of-duty deaths, and so does suicidal ideation. So
that one's really, really unfortunate, yeah.
It's tragic. And all of these things are tied to sleep. So when you look at sleep, it's not just, it's carcinogenic risk, it's suicidal ideation risk, it's cardiovascular health, it's also how you eat, it's how you operate, it's how you think, it's how you perform your job. So it's tied to everything. And that's why the next frontier of health and safety in the fire service worldwide is how we alert firefighters. That is how you respond to calls. That is day and night, no matter what, you are going to be exposed to alerts. This is where we should be focusing our attention to make sure that we're giving the firefighters, the responders, the best tools that they can have to make sure that we're reducing any risks where we can, making sure that they can have the improved quality of life when they go home today and after retirement. I mean, that's, like you said, we're expecting a lot out of the men and women who are giving their all to this job. It's critical that we as industry and as the fire service and administration are giving them the tools that they deserve and need that are accessible to make their job and their lives improved in any way we can.
First Tactical builds equipment for people who work when environments are seriously unforgiving. And if you go to their website, you'll find kit is designed specifically for us, for firefighters, for police officers, technical rescue teams, fire investigation, hazmat, hazardous materials teams, urban search and rescue. This is honestly the equipment
that you really want to rely on. It's built for real operations, real pressure, long ass days, and I genuinely use this stuff. Here's a few of my favorites. They've got their men's Defender short sleeve. I've got that in black. It's got a huge load of specialized pockets, space for all of our gears, the pads, the pens, all of the stuff. It's got them on the sleeves on both sides. Also got the Defender pants. These have got 28 pockets in total on them. It's mad. Let's be honest, we absolutely love the bags. I use their 25-litre specialist half-day backpack. The shoulder straps as well are strong AF. Like I say, this isn't lifestyle gear. It's built for real world, real operations. We talk about the realities of the job, and First Tactical is just the ideal partnership for us. So go take a look, firsttactical.co.uk. Now back to the show. There's been a number of really interesting books on sleep. I think the first one I ever read was Matthew Walker. I think he's a Center for Human Sleep Science or something like that. I think he's an American. And it was called Why We Sleep. But I actually read another one a few years ago, which was the Circadian Code, which is probably actually one I'd encourage first responders to look at more, because it goes much deeper into hormones, metabolism, immune function, alertness, and how that things like light exposure and meal timing can reset and do a lot for people's circadian rhythms. But if you're going into a job where it is an expectation in our current standard that these things are going to be almost, because now this technology and now things like EaseAlert are out there, you'd almost, sounds like an accusation, but you'd almost have to say, this is malicious because there is an alternative. There actually is an alternative. You know what I mean? If you go, well, that's just the way it is, and it's no, it's not. Sorry, it's not an expected thing, because there is a technological innovation, if you will, now where you could, if you cared enough, if you wanted to look deep down enough, because there's a reason sleep deprivation is still one of the most effective tortures that's out there.
Yeah,
it's the cruelest thing to do to someone, because it's in a remarkably short period of time, like a couple of days, they will start to, have hallucinogens, and they will start to, lose grip on reality. And it's almost like we're acknowledging that we are giving first responders, who we're supposed to champion and support, who are there to rescue everybody and help everybody. They don't join it for the income. You know what I mean? They ain't making a lot of money doing it. No millionaires are coming out of the first responder sector. It's people that we need to be there for us, and we're giving them almost a malicious dose of this now. How have you seen the adoption of this over in the States, if we use as an example to start with?
It's been really great, especially in the past few years. The first few years, it took a lot of education, and for us as well, we needed to learn how are we adjusting things, what changes are being made. We understand that it's very difficult to make change. Two things firefighters hate: changing the way things are. Right? We don't want to.
Depends on your appetite. Yeah. And
right.
Depends who you think it's going to benefit. We hate change when it's imposed upon us. If we think it's just for a performative cultural thing or whatever, we're like, man, whatever. But something like this, I feel like, and you'll know better than me, sorry for interrupting, but I feel like there would be less of a fear of adopting this. Certainly from a station level. Maybe the people above that have to pay for it, they might be a bit upset. But like at a station level, I feel like this would be a win-win.
It is, yeah, and that's exactly where we got to. So you hit on it. It's for the firefighters. We call it firefighter alerting. And to date, every other alerting system has been known as fire station alerting. So it provides peripherals, lights, bells, sounds attached to a building with a hardwired system to notify a building that responders live within. And they have to become accustomed to that. They have to either be able to hear the sound or be around the speakers or see the lights to be able to respond. Whereas we're coming in saying this is firefighter alerting. We should be alerting responders, not buildings. That's what EaseAlert is coming in to do. And that's when we started really getting a lot more adoption, when people realized, okay, this is for me. You are looking out for my health. You are making my life better today and tomorrow and allowing me to have a better retirement. And from the chief and administrative perspective, they see the benefits too, because like you said, now they know that there's a tool that's better for their personnel, not just their health and wellness, but also for their performance. So they're starting to realize, okay, this is a win-win. Now you bring the community into it as well. And the community is saying, look what we're doing with our tax-paying dollars. We're able to support our first responders who are supporting us. This is a win for us too. And so everybody from the stakeholders' perspective has been completely bought in. And now it's really just starting to take off, which has been fun. But it comes down to making sure that we're doing what's best for the people who are receiving the alerts, the firefighters.
You just hit the nail on the head with a tremendous reframing, which I don't want us to skip past, which is, and I'm sure we've already said it already, but it's like responding the firefighter and not the station. That aspect of alerting the individual, because this is probably a prehistoric reframing that we don't even realize have done, because we used to, and there's still a lot of places around the world, we still mobilize the entire station because all of the trucks roll out because that's the standard predetermined attendance for X number of fires. That, and this is where I think you would see a bigger adoption in the UK. We don't do that because we are significantly smaller organizations still trying to wrestle with a diverse range of community needs. So people will come to fire stations in the UK and they might see 5 trucks in the bays, but there will not be 5 crews on station. There might be 1 or 2, or like you might have 6 firefighters. So you'll have 4 firefighters riding primary on a truck, and then you'll have 2 riding on an aerial ladder platform, or they'll be riding on a rope vehicle, or they'll be riding on a water vehicle, or they'll be riding on another asset. And maybe because of their skill set, or just the way this shift rotates every week, every set, every tour, they are riding that vehicle now. So they don't need to be mobilized to every single thing. Or you'll turn out Papa 2, but you won't turn out Papa 1. So-and-so station that's 15 miles away has been mobilized to a call. So we're going to send a cover truck, a cover pump there, but we're only sending our second vehicle. The primary crew on riding Papa 1, riding the main truck, don't need to go. So why are we alerting the whole station?
Yeah.
But that again, that's just comes from, you've got to step back 3 assumptions. Do you know what I mean? To almost go, well, why am I doing that? And people go, if one's up, all are up. Well, that's just fucking stupid. Like, that's just a silly romantic thing, because maybe you're about to retire and you don't really care. I had to do it. I'm fine. Are you fine? You know what I mean? We can't split test life. And if we would have had a version of you that had not had that exposed to them, what would your health be now? What would your cardiac health be? What would your sleep, your stress? Would it have affected your personal relationships at home as much because you weren't coming back, tired and groggy and a bit snappy and all of the things above? Now, if you had a busy night and you were actually out on calls, okay, that's the nature of the beast. That's why you joined. But that's not every shift, is it?
Yeah.
Let's get a grip. Do you know what I mean? But I feel like there's almost got to be an admission of, oh no, I've had this happen to me for 30 years. But you know what? I think that's the best definition of leadership, is you're going to plant trees under which you will never sit the shade of.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? You've got to, we all talk about making it better than we found it. And I'm like, if a lot of us look at our careers and we go, did I really make a difference? Locally, perhaps. Locally, probably, definitely. You saved the person. You were part of the incident that put the fire out. You stopped the flood water getting here, whatever. But did you make a difference to the machine? Do you know what I mean? People always say they miss the clowns, they don't miss the circus. Because the circus is so hard. It's so political quagmire at times, and the pointless change is sometimes easy. The change like you're trying to achieve that will make a significant impact to the firefighter on the ground can actually sometimes be very, very hard, because the people that are making the decisions, this sounds like an accusation from me, the people that helps the most aren't making the decision, and the people that will benefit the least are the ones asked to make the decision. And there's no what's in it for me, maybe, unless you are still, you still core values are, Jesus Christ, this is really going to help my brothers and sisters. What a great change. Do you know what I mean? But you have seen, like I say, you've seen some adoption. I mean, on some of the stuff you shared with me, you've got some great names and numbers on there. You've got San Antonio, Augustine Fire Department. You've got some stuff in the Air Force now. So you're going wide, as we're not just focusing on municipal public firefighting.
Yeah, no, it's going wide, and we're starting to prepare for international expansion too. Expecting our first international installation this year, and
nice.
We're getting pulled from so we're talking to fire departments in Canada. We're talking to fire departments in Australia, the UK, and actually all over the world as well, reaching out. So it's been great. Thanks to podcasts like this and continuing to get the word out. But one thing too, I want to give a lot of credit to those leaders who have been in the fire service for a long time, because that's the big change that we've seen just in the past year to 18 months. We've seen, and I was just on an installation that we did for a new client about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I met with a captain there who was on shift, the on-shift captain, and he pulled me aside. We talked for 2 hours, and he said, "Man, I cannot express my gratitude enough for what you're doing for the next generation." He said, my career is done. I'm winding down. My damage to my heart has been done, but I feel it every day. And I wish that I had something like this when I was starting. You're giving this to my rookies, and I'm grateful to you for this." And that's the sort of leadership that we're hearing, not just at the on-shift captain level, but also up to the fire chief level. And that's the big shift that I think is going to really bring the fire service forward. So hats off to those folks who are making those changes and planting the trees that they won't get to, enjoy the shade from.
I feel like, and again, I'm speaking from a UK bias, this next 5 to 10 years, we are at a real generational sweet spot. I'd say in the next 5 to 7 years, because we're going through mass retirement. So many people are retiring. Like 30 years ago, we employed a load of people. Then we went through a freeze, and then we've had people trickling in over the last 10, 15 years in smaller waves. But there is a big cohort of people leaving now because they've just reached that point of retirement. And because of that, many people are moving up in the organizations quite rapidly. Not me, but other people that are really good at their job. Other people that rock the boat less. No, they're fantastic people. They've chosen a different path for their career. But the benefit of it is, it wasn't that long ago they remember being on a fire station. We're talking a few years. These people can remember being there and doing that. And they hold more reputational respect. They hold more sort of alignment and allegiance to those individuals, because you could wait for the unicorns like some of the, Chief Michael Guzman or Carlos or Greg Reynard, those people who have done the right thing because they feel it to be the right thing and the data supports it. But they might be unicorns. You know what I mean? You might be speaking to people who are 20, 30 years or 25 years off the trucks. And they may not feel it as much. But I feel like in this next 5 to 7 years, which is great for you guys, you're at that real sweet spot where people are looking for these significant. I feel like in society in general, we've become much more conscious about our health, haven't we?
Yeah.
Do you feel that? I don't know why. Like
Absolutely.
drinking has fallen down loads. Like gyms are the new pubs.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And we all seem to be much more health conscious.
Yeah, without
I don't know
a
why
doubt.
that is.
And I think, well, I mean, I would attribute it to the science becoming more available, and the people who have the information, like the researchers that you talk about who are sitting on the sidelines, they're finally being given the spotlight like they should be. I can only imagine how difficult it is to be sitting on the side knowing the answers and watching somebody just beat their head against a wall. But that's changing, and that's changing across the entire population. And it's not different for the fire service. It's getting better, and people are becoming more knowledgeable.
It is beyond a privilege to be able to bring the Firefighters podcast to you, and we are so grateful for every single person that supports, listens, shares, and follows our journey. But here's the honest truth. It takes a colossal amount of time and work to keep the podcast going. And to help us keep doing it, create more, reach more guests internationally, and make the podcast sustainable, we're asking for you to help. And to do this, we've set up a Patreon page. Now, if you've ever wanted to meet a member of the podcast, buy us a beer, buy us a coffee, and you think anything you've ever listened to on the podcast has been worth £3, that's basically what we're asking you for. By joining our Patreon community, you will get access to every single full episode archive we have ever made. Now, hundreds and hundreds of key documents that we've got in there on fire behavior, firefighter health, cancer risks, incident debriefs, and so much more. So if you feel like you want to join the Patreon crew and help us make this possible, head to patreon.com/TFFPC or check the link in any episode podcast notes. So talk me through this installation process, because I feel like, and I don't know a tremendous amount about it, but this is not a massively heavy lift for people. We're not building a new building. We're not putting a massive crane in place. I imagine the physical installation of this is remarkably minimal.
Yeah, it certainly is when you compare it to a traditional hardwired system that goes into a building. For us, it's an enterprise alerting system. So everything that you would expect from an enterprise fire station alerting system, you'll get from EaseAlert. everything from dispatch console to notification boards to automated voice dispatching to automatic failover and redundant communications, the whole nine. But the way we install it, it's going to be wireless communications throughout our devices. And you may hear wireless and think, okay, I don't know if I can trust wireless. Well, it's not a standard Wi-Fi signal, right? It's an encrypted one-way signal that's going to be resilient and it's going to be robust. We've tested this thing. It's been in the field now, 350,000 plus alerts at this point. It works. And so that's the beauty of it. And it can go into an existing building as a retrofit, or it can go into a brand new station as a full brand new system that's, in the installation.
So is it scalable? Is there like bands to it? If I said, so let's say I'm a station manager somewhere here in the UK. I'll probably, in fact, a station manager won't be allowed to make a decision. Let's say I'm an area manager and I'm bringing you in for consultation, and we go and visit one of my stations, and you go, hey, well, we've got a control integration system, or the wording that you used. And I'm like, now we've got one of them. I don't want what I've seen when I was you on that podcast thing. I saw the wearable, like you had a watch and a pendant. Can I just buy that package and then you plug the software in? Do you need to plug it in locally on the station? I'm guessing you do. Is there anything that needs to go into my control system? Is it an all or nothing? Can I have just some stations? Like if I said I've got higher call profiles in my inner city stations, that would be the most effective areas to do this. Like what's the sort of menu, if you will? Is there a spectrum of installation options?
Yeah, of course. And it can be modular. So if you say, I've got everything else, I just want to add tac pods, or I just want to add bunk alerts, I just want to add LED strips, that's no problem. We can put in one central command unit, so one transmitter, and then any number of EaseAlert devices you want, 1 to 1,000. And then you can do a single station. You don't have to do the whole brigade. It depends on how you want to roll it out. So it's fully modular, customized to fit whatever needs you have. It'll seamlessly integrate, so you don't need to worry about ripping things out. If you just bought a brand new system, no worries. You can add this onto it as an easy add-on. If you're looking for a brand new system, this can also give you that. And you can start small and work your way up to the point where you've got the full enterprise system kind of.
You know what? Thinking about all of this and the different places that it has or hasn't been adopted, and I know I say this ad nauseum on the podcast, but there's something called the Matthew Principle, where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And I feel like this is a great example of where the future is here, but it's not evenly distributed, because the people that have got more assets, more time, a great person in procurement that's given more opportunity to travel internationally and find out these great innovations and bring those golden nuggets back to improve the health of their firefighters and first responders generally on stations. But the people that don't have those things, people don't have those opportunities prior to things like this existing for free for people to go and listen to, it's like they probably never would have known about it. And I think about how many innovators and business owners and people like yourself who have had these great ideas before, but because they couldn't get past the gatekeepers, or because we didn't have technology that's international like this now, how many of those things could we have started adopting years ago? And I worry if we throw our mind forward in 20 years, who will still be learning about EaseAlert for the first time in 20 years? And what an absolute travesty that would be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, this podcast and platforms similar, it's important and that's how we're getting information out there. And you hit on earlier, how are we now starting to see these big adoptions, and this big kind of knowledge curve growing for the entire population, the fire service included? I think it has a lot to do with these platforms transmitting technology in a big blast to everybody in a more easy to consume format. But that's, I think, as far as our expansion goes, we're following the market. And so for those, like you said, those who have seen it or come across your podcast, they're reaching out and they're saying, come to Australia or come to the UK or come to Canada. And we're saying, yeah, sure, we're happy to do that. Let's go. We're not going out knocking on doors saying, hey, we're going to push this into X, Y, or Z area, because we're going where it's being pulled. And so that's, as far as who's not going to know about it, it's whoever doesn't listen to this podcast, right? Whoever doesn't cross the material. So John's on you, brother. Get this out there.
The unique thing about our stuff, and then there's loads of them across the world now, and it's fantastic, is no one likes being sold to. You know what I mean? But everyone likes shopping with friends. So when you come to something like this, it's like you're the fly on the wall of a conversation. And I know that's the way I feel when I hear podcasts, and I rewind past them, and I save things in my Spotify account because I want to listen to it again, because it's literally like you're just sat there listening in to this conversation that's happening a bit further down the table. And that's that symbiosis. We're learning through this. We're almost crowdsourcing knowledge now, which I think is the best way to do it. And this is the thing I wish existed before I could. There's loads of them all over the world, America and everywhere else. There's loads of podcasts in America, but like in the UK, I was still very scared of like there's not a massive amount of psychological safety that exists in some of our organizations. So we fear coming on these platforms, and I just feel like if we don't put ourselves out there, everyone loses. Yes, you sound like a dick, and yes, you embarrass yourself, and oh my God, I can't believe Pete said this and Pete said that. You must be so... No one cares. No one cares. No one cares. Do you know what I mean? Because they'll come away from this and go, they won't go, oh, did you hear when Pete couldn't remember the name of the book? No one cares. They'll come away and going, Jesus Christ, have you heard in Australia and America, they're using this EaseAlert system? And like, I forget what he said, but it's something like 38% improvement in firefighter health, reduction in heart rate, or this or this or that. I'm like, Jesus Christ, why haven't we got this? And then they put in the request, they put in the report, they probably pull a link down from this and say, look, I don't really know how to explain it very well, but basically there's a better alerting system that is for the firefighters and not for the general station. And like, I'm probably going to make a terrible job of explaining it, but if you just go and listen to this and then follow the link below it, like that's basically the best way. And people listen to it on the drive. They listen to it when they're walking their dog. And I just wish, if we'd have known better, we'd have done it ages ago. But yeah, I'm so grateful that stuff like this is happening now. And people like yourself, credit to you, are willing to put yourself out there in a manner that is just conversational. You're not pitching, you're not beating people over the head with it. You're like, look, we've done the data. We've worked with the NIH. This works. Here's the receipts. Do you think it would help your firefighters? Well, not do you think? Then this is the beautiful thing about data now. It's kind of undeniable. When you're seeing these health markers, it's less romanticism and opinionated. It's like, well, this is what the National Institute of Health says. Fact. I mean, like, fucking, it's up to you. You know what I mean? Because that's the point when I said it earlier. It's now a conscious decision not to, which is a really unfortunate accusation. And I get people may have adopted systems and they feel like they're invested in this or invested in that. But that's the beauty of what you guys are doing, is this can integrate. We're not saying instead of.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We're saying as well as. And I feel like these are real metrics when we're looking at making reasonable adjustments effectively to someone's workplace. If we pull it right out into this generic work sector, you're seeing, the big top end companies, your Googles and everything of the world, using science and data to make workplaces a place where people wants to stay and grow without having to onboard a health challenge unknowingly and now knowingly. So I think it's a great insight, brother. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, like, where's the best place for people to go? Can they reach? What do you want going underneath here? We'll put a LinkedIn address. We'll put an email address. We'll put the website. But if people want to find out a bit more information, who's the best person to speak to?
Yeah, the main thing would just be to go to EaseAlert.com. You can reach out to me directly, Blake at EaseAlert.com. Shoot me an email. Happy to hop on a call. Anybody in the fire service who's looking to innovate and bring the fire service forward, happy to talk. Always looking forward to these conversations. So website, email, phone call, you name it, I'm there.
Brother, I appreciate you. Send my love to the family and everybody else, and let's do it again in 3, 4, 6 months time when you get your first person in Europe, when you get your first organization in the UK. Let's high five. I'd love to get some time together.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks, Pete. This has been an honor, man.
Well, that's it for today, folks. Hope you took a lot away from that episode. We started the Firefighters podcast to develop, inspire, connect, motivate, represent, and most importantly, celebrate the world of incredible emergency services operators and the wider sector through this series of wide-ranging conversations. We really love creating this podcast and bringing it to so many people. Did you know you can also find these on YouTube? We do a lot of video podcasts now. You can head over to our YouTube page and follow, subscribe there. And as a final ask from us, whatever platform you're on, please rate the podcast. It really helps us as a key performance indicator to reach more and more people. I've been your host, Pete Wakefield. This has been the Firefighters podcast. And wherever you are in the world, please stay safe, be happy, and where possible, please remember and support your firefighters and first responders. I'll see you next time.